Hello, good morning, uh, everyone who's joining us today, volunteers from around the world. We have lovely children who must be watching this. Of course, eVidyaloka and its family. Uh, Wishing you everyone a very happy Teachers' Day. It's a pleasure for us to actually be having this wonderful discussion with four leaders from different organizations here to share with us their thoughts and some very interesting experiences and views around what we would like to call as volunteering culture in India, even as we celebrate Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, India at 75. Uh, Let me quickly introduce my fellow panelists today. With us, we have Bhumika Sharma. Bhumika is the Director, General Management and Volunteering Lead at Publicis Sapient. She also, is very well known and recognized for the passion she carries about people and creating what she calls as high-performing communities of people aligned for a cause. Bhumika, as someone with having more than 2 decades of experience across clients, countries, continents, technologies, and cultures, we have to learn from you today. Thank you for joining us.
Happy to be here. Thank you for welcoming.
May I also introduce my second panelist, Geetha. He is carrying volunteering, with a passion. As you can see, her backdrop, it says volunteer to make a difference. She's already here with a statement to make. Geetha specializes in people management and building strong teams with a particular focus on working with NGOs and creating opportunities for employees to volunteer. Geetha, we are looking forward to hearing a lot from you today.
Thanks, Ram. It's a pleasure to be part of this panel. Looking forward for an active interaction.
Thank you. May I introduce Devdutta, Devdutta Mulchandani, GM and CSR Head at Hyundai Motor India. Devdutta brings in many years of experience in driving CSR projects, working with underprivileged communities, NGOs, and partner agencies, particularly in both motivating and channelizing employee participation. I personally look forward to hearing a lot from you today, Devdutta. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Ram. It's a pleasure, being on this panel, and I hope to have a very active interaction and learn from each other. Thank you.
Thank you. And we also have with us Mouli, Chandra Mouli. Mouli is a manager, CSR and sustainability at First American India. Mouli has been very actively involved in leading several CSR initiatives. As I understand, Mouli, you recently led the project for the installation of the Indo-Tibetan border police in one of the most harshest of environments at Ladakh, amidst frost and limited infrastructure at the highest altitude at Leh for our border soldiers. I guess how more inspiring can one be? Wonderful to have you with us today. Thank you again, Mouli, for being on this panel.
Thank you for that wonderful note, Ram. And it's my privilege to be a part of this particular panel. I would like to contribute and learn a lot from this panel. Look forward for this.
Thank you. So maybe I'll start with you, Bhumika, right? As they say, volunteers don't necessarily have the time always, but they do have the heart. And that's how one describes, a typical volunteer, right? And you've been managing volunteering initiatives. I understand the initiative through Prayas, particularly where you're engaging with volunteers through the year. So if I may start by asking you, what in your view is volunteering, right? I mean, do you see the definition of a volunteer and the perspective of volunteering evolving? And what's really been your perspective on this?
That's a lovely quote and a great question to start the conversation. So thanks for that, Ram. I think before we deep dive into what exactly is volunteering space, we need to understand what is a volunteer, who is a volunteer. And in my mind, anyone who offers to do something for free for the betterment of something is a volunteer. Now that's a very, like a clinical description or definition of a volunteer. But the example that I want to quote is from my childhood. I was born and brought up in Delhi. And near to our home, there was this school which had like a nice boundary wall. And outside the boundary wall, there was this area which was dedicated for like 4-5 taps, filter water for anyone to drink. Now, Delhi can get very hot in summers. And, all those vendors, street vendors, hawkers, they don't really have, they never used to carry water bottles. It was not a norm at that point of time. So I still remember this, one gentleman who used to come every morning and he used to tidy up that area. They used to have those steel glasses. He used to like nicely arrange them. He used to clean that up, switch on the cooling, things like that. So he wasn't really an employee of the school. Nobody asked him to do that. He was doing from his own will, from his own interest. And I think he also realized the impact that the small act was doing on so many people, the people who were stopping by to have water throughout the day and having a good experience, finding a nice clean area, finding the glass to drink water. A very small thing, but as a child, it struck me that this is something which is coming from heart. You're doing it without expecting anything in return. And I think it's not about how these schools or these causes get benefited from volunteering. It's also the volunteer themselves and what is in it for them that is so important. So in my definition of a volunteer, I think it's also about how they help in making something possible for someone, and in return they have this great sense of accomplishment, pride, association with the larger community, that satisfaction of making a difference somewhere. All of these aspects are brought to you when you are volunteering somewhere. I also feel that with changing times, like how we have everybody going into the remote working, people have become more lonely, people have lost that connect. I think these volunteering opportunities also give people an event to come together, a forum where they can meet strangers, but they have a same passion to make a difference somewhere. And when they come together, I think that meeting and connecting with others is the most important thing that people are missing currently. So in my view, I think it's just going to increase the volunteering, the way people are finding ways to come together and make an impact. It's just going to increase from here on.
Yeah, I think you made a statement about volunteering being, how to stay connected with a larger goal. I'm going to come back on that, but before I go into that, I do want to, move to Geetha. Geetha, this is, they say you make a living by what you get, but you make a life by really what you give, right? And you've been engaging with people across various kinds of organization, all the way from ISRO to WorldSpace to MetLife, and now with a professional services firm like EY. And you've been always working on creating opportunities for employees to volunteer, right? I mean, I really want to go into this nuance of the element of culture, right? How do you see the culture element, play a role in volunteering? I mean, do you see that as an innate quality that is present everywhere and one just needs to ignite it? Or is that something that you believe has to be, seeded, nurtured, and really, is there a process to bringing out this culture, or is that a potential that is sitting there that needs to be unlocked? How do you see the culture element, Geetha?
Thanks, Ram. I think that's a very, very interesting question. And I'm super touched by what Bhumika has also said, how the end result is what is important and not who is asking for it to be done and stuff. For me, like personally, I believe value and culture go hand in hand. See, culture is like, to be very precise, how we bring our own children up in our communities when they are born and when they start celebrating at the age of 5, 6, and where we actually imbibe them saying, hey, this is your birthday, you need to do something for others as well. So it could be as simple as going and distributing sweets to the, I don't want to call less privileged, but still maybe to the person who is working in your home, buy a gift to the maid's child, or just go to the security guard at your apartment, distribute some sweets and say, hey, today is my birthday, I want to celebrate, right? So that is the seeding part, what we will do when the children are very, very young. And when they grow up, there's already seeded. You don't need to do anything more. So they come up with ideas like, see, now at age 5, I was doing this. Now at age 10, I want to do something more, right? And even nowadays, the school is also started off. Like many of the private schools, they have said, yeah, volunteering is a key ingredient that we need to put in child's education as well. So many of the schools, like as I have seen, especially in Bangalore, once they cross grade 8, grade 9, they have a project to complete, which says you have to go 5 weeks to a blind organization, spend time, volunteer, create a project, come back, report. These are the things that we will nurture when especially the children are young. And it is seeded, like we don't need to give our complete things like what to be done and how. The road is already set and the map will carve out as they grow old. And in my particular organization, what I have seen here in eva is it's just the passion which comes out with every employee. Like when we say this is a volunteering opportunity we have created, do you want to come join us, right? Then they say, yeah, this is touching my heart, I'm really want to do this and I'm going to get more volunteers from my team to do this. So this is like indirectly, whether you say whether it's nurtured, seeded or what, it just takes on with that. And it needs to be backed up, Ram, like especially with the opportunities we have now. As I see, many of us want to do give back to the society, and they really don't know how, what, where, and stuff. When we are creating these kind of opportunities, curating programs for them to give their time and skills, I think this will just become part of Indian culture. Like,
Very interesting. I mean, you touched a very important point there, Geetha. I mean, it's already there.
yeah,
For the culture, children are as they grow, they actually are imbibed with this value, and that becomes part of them. And I guess a huge, large responsibility that we all carry is
yes,
in channelizing it and making
correct.
sure that opportunity is given. And I mean, we at eVidyaloka, when we initially thought this movement was a lot to do with reaching out to children, which it certainly is. We really saw volunteering as a means to that, to that end, right? But what we also realized, and what we are realizing, and we are experiencing it every day, is when a lot of volunteers, actually not doing this necessarily just for the end beneficiary. I mean, that is making it as I'm giving something, and that makes it a very different equation, right? On the contrary, it's actually about how the volunteers derive joy out of this whole
Yeah,
process. So it's actually about what they get out of it than more than what they give into it,
absolutely.
right? So this is it's an experience that where you actually see it personally, and we have any number of volunteers at eVidyaloka would swear by that, right? And then this whole channelizing, curating is the key word there. And so I'm going to come back to you, Devdutta, from where we actually had both Bhumika and Geetha left, right? I mean, Bhumika made a very interesting statement that volunteering means to stay connected, to work side by side, towards a common cause. And Geetha was actually talking about how you have to channelize, the whole concept of opportunities that the employees can participate in, right? And you obviously been doing that all along. You've been channelizing employee participation. And by the way, kudos on the Haryana government recognition of your COVID response support during the pandemic.
Thank you.
So I have a question here for you. How do you really see the corporate volunteering potential truly being nurtured and tapped in, right? And particularly as we celebrate India at 75, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, what do you think we are doing well? And what do you think we should be doing better or focusing further as we move forward? Devdutta.
Ram, thank you for the question. Actually, when Geetha and Bhumika was speaking before me, and a lot of things that they said resonated, especially this thing about culture and also how to channelize it. What I feel is that, and what I've seen over the years, at Hyundai and even in the communities that I've been part of, and I've been part of many volunteering organizations, and I've also been part of the Roundtable, the Rotary, and so on and so forth. One of the things is that I think inherently what you said is that it is the joy that brings to the volunteer more than the outcome. I mean, nobody the volunteer is not so focused on the outcome as much as the innate sense of joy that they feel when they volunteer or do something good for the society. So I think that's inherent in all of us as human beings, and I think everybody has this need to give back or do something for somebody else. So the important thing, as Geetha mentioned, I think it is to channelize this need. So at Hyundai, what I noticed is that there were a lot of people who were volunteering on their own, who were doing different kind of things, and like somebody is working with orphanages, somebody is teaching, somebody is distributing food. It's a plethora. So we said that when there are already people doing this, why can't we create platforms, to channelize this thought. But I mean, the flip side of this is that people are willing to do it, but sometimes they have to align with the cause as well. I feel that is one of the challenges of structured volunteering. So that the way we are approaching it is that we are creating a whole plethora of choices so that people can choose what they want to do. But I'll say this, that there is nobody stepping back. People may not be wanting, they may want to do it, but they cannot because of time constraints, or they have too many projects or whatever it is. Work actually keeps them there. But I definitely feel that the structured volunteering is definitely will come into play, and this is going to become even more structured as we go along. Because I'm seeing, let's say the apartment complex that I live in, there are every other day I see in the WhatsApp groups, they're calling for volunteers, and people maybe on that particular Sunday or whatever, they're not free, but they want to do it. So they're always asking, can we have another opportunity? So whether it is your organization, whether it's your apartment, or whether it's some other community, I think this structured volunteering and having these opportunities is in a more in a more concerted way. I think that's going to be the norm for sure. And I also feel that in a way, it's going to become big. Like I think in the Western world, as we see, structured volunteering is really big. I mean, people are doing things to raise funds for people in Africa. Maybe somebody in Netherlands is cycling all over the in a certain cycling route, and they're raising funds for this. We have our we also have certain drives for which we are raising funds. But I think it's going to become also pretty like, I think volunteering and philanthropy, I think these things, the differentiation is going to become higher. It's going to become wider, because philanthropy is completely different. And fundraising and that portion of it is completely different. I think just even about 5 or 6 years back, it was all, in one pot, so to say. And now we have different dishes out of it. So, definitely, I see this as going forward. And as we are celebrating India at 75 and maybe 80 and 100, definitely there's going to be a huge change and a way forward to this kind of structure.
Very interesting. You talked about India at 100. I'm going to come back to you on that. But before I did that, I really wanted to come to you, Mouli. It's interesting that Devdutta talked about someone in Netherlands actually doing some cycling to help someone in Africa, right? It reminds me of this, famous statement that says, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can, right? It's not really about, doing it wherever, it doesn't necessarily have to have a context of time or geography or any other constraint, right? Just do your little bit is what they say. Now, you've obviously been, doing a lot. For example, driving children education, through this Lighter Life initiative. You've been encouraging a lot of your employees and their families to use the Miyawaki method and planting of saplings. Every time I get to see, you are seeing, the numbers are nothing less than 3,000 and 3,500. One day it's Bangalore, the other day it's Hyderabad, and you seem to be all over, right? So now, I mean, this is actually about truly driving volunteering, right? And you've been championing this, channelizing this. Now, what, from your experience, is that factor, the biggest factor that drives, what I would like to call as a groundswell movement, right? Where the employees actually, are able to contribute. And how do you think employers can actually, going back to the point Devdutta made, I mean, how can employers bring in the visibility on the various volunteering avenues? But more importantly, not do it as a one time, but make sure it is sustained over a period of time, right? So your take, Mouli.
Sure. Thanks, Ram. Thanks for asking that question. Very insightful questions the one that you had asked, and also I resonate with a lot of information and as well as the experience shared by the other panelists. The first important aspect of how this volunteering mobilization that happens at First American India, it is the culture that's set by the leadership team, for that matter. So how did it all begin? Because as we all understand, culture doesn't happen overnight. It takes that good amount of time to set in. And that's what happened at First American India. So as we all understand, when you talk about a corporate, you have a responsibility of spending the 2% of average profit that came into existence in 2013. But at First American India, we started our FAI foundation called Lighter Life in 2011, that we want to give it back to the community as we have taken a lot. So that strong thought from the leadership team has made us to get in here. We start off with the education project, which was one in all the three locations wherever we are, be it Bangalore, Hyderabad, or Salem. So education was one of such. We used to go to schools and teach them with a limited time, whatever we had during the work timings. And then we thought so that only few people were just going to education to the schools and start contributing. As we all understand, not everybody interest would be the same. So that's when in 2015, after experiencing some good 2 to 3 years, then in 2015, we came up with something unique idea called Lightathon, which means our employees will go out in the community, identify the problem or a challenge that our community is facing today. They will go interact, identify, and come back and share the problem statement, and then build a project upon and ask for what would be the funding and the volunteering activities that they would like to do for the next 1 year. And in the first year, we had received close to 20 projects across all locations. And this is what had made a big movement at First American India, where employees have come back to their projects to do something like this. And eventually, year on year, the projects got multiplied. And then we had into 30, 40, and 50. An interesting fact today as a milestone that First American India, all employees remember along with their family members, is in the year 2019 and 20. That was the year we marked 25 years of India operations. Our, our employees committed to give 25,000 hours of volunteering of community service. And every employee, as much as they can, they contributed to these lightathon projects. And also we have one-off projects that we did. And this was led purely by our employees and the respective leaders. And this went well till February 2020. As we understand, the pandemic hit. By then, we didn't achieve 25,000 hours. No, absolutely not. We achieved only 20,000 hours, and we are left with another 5,000 there. So that's when in March, when we had to change the way we work, we all went remote. So is the volunteering. We were into physical volunteering, then we thought we'll do a virtual volunteering, and it wasn't easy. The transition wasn't easy. The business people know, and every individual knew it. So is the volunteering. So then we had to work with NGO partners. One of the such partner was eVidyaloka, who gave us the opportunity to do that remote volunteering. And our employees just raise their hands up and say, I would want to give it back to students because education has taken a backseat, especially during the pandemic. We want to give it back. So that's when we went ahead, seek the opportunities, create the study materials, start connecting virtually, and then ensure that that we touched that 25,000 mark.
Wow.
So on the occasion of 21st June is our Founders Day. So by 2019 is when we took that commitment of completing 25,000 hours, and 2020, 21st June, we accomplished that 25,000 hours gracefully.
Wow.
And we had 85% of our employees out of 5,000 employees, 85% of employees contributed along with their family members. And that made a big difference for us till date. Post that, we had eventually the activities started going virtually, that we got accustomed the way that we've been doing. And whenever we share a cause that this is the activity that we want to, and we just open up to employees, and employees take the lead. They show their commitment and they drive. And when they drive it and they have their own people along, and that moves the entire organization. And this is what have led us to contribute in big numbers. As you said, 3,000, 4,000, be it in Bangalore, Hyderabad, Salem, and next we have other locations to move on. That's the pipeline, we do it. But the major part of it, as an organization, how do we ensure that volunteering avenues that we tend to get better of? It's through bringing in the volunteering opportunities, consistent and variety of opportunities what our employees would seek for. Sustainability, the ownership lies with the employees, and they take it and do it. And even though employees quit, our ex-employees, so-called ex-employees, would call back to the team and ask, how is the program going on? Can I come and be a part of it? At least one of such occasions. We are like, by all means, please do come and be a part of it. We have our ex-employees coming and being part of it and just giving back what they have started. And they've always been a part of a family through our CSR activities, even though they have resigned and just left our organization. This is how that we have said at First American India.
Very nice. And this 25,000 hours was only of the employees, not their family members, which is over and above that, right?
Yeah. Yes, it's over and above. It's only purely our First American India employees.
Very nice. Very nice. I mean, I guess there are a lot of, your brethren who must be watching this on a Teachers' Day. And I guess the one message that you are giving them all is seek the commitment of your employees upfront and lock in those hours that someone is actually promising to spread, and then it becomes your responsibility to provide them with as many opportunities, as many varieties of opportunities, bring out those various dishes, as Devdutta pointed out, that actually then those employees can get to benefit from. And I'm so pleased and happy that your team found eVidyaloka to be a cause they could actually connect with. We famously quote that, after the COVID, people talked about what was the new normal, that people were actually educating children remotely. Uh, with a lot of humility, dare I say, that this has been our normal for a long time. This is our normal for the last 12 years. From 2011, we've actually been, teaching children remotely. And as we say, you could teach children in a village, many, many miles away, many continents away from the comfort of your living room, right? Which is really the joy of what we like call as the joy of engaging with children. It's always refreshing. Yeah. Devdutta, I promised to come back to you, and you made a very powerful statement. And this is about we are at India at 75, and then the various children that who actually we are reaching out to today would all be potential volunteers when we actually are at India at 100. Incidentally, we have another session that is immediately following this that's talking about volunteering among students and what that means. But if I come back to you, what in your view, or if you were to visualize, the volunteering culture 25 years from now, when India is celebrating its, India at 100 year, how do you see? I mean, crystal gazing. What's your picture?
Yeah, India at 100. I think there's going to be a lot more giving to the community. I think it's going to get a lot more structured. There will be a lot more opportunities. There will be, today it is still sporadic. It is still, it's still, how should I say it? It's still voluntary. But, I think when we go forward, the culture is definitely coming in. And I see, as Geetha also mentioned that you see children like in Bangalore, they have done many schools have formalized it. I don't think this will definitely go forward if schools have done it. Colleges are doing it. Communities are doing it. There's so many organizations who are doing it, and I think there's going to be a lot more. I just see that there is a lot more outcomes which we can expect out of volunteering, and today the impact is fairly low because it's it is there, but it is in it's bits and pieces. But I think we are going to see a lot more larger impact. We're actually going to be able to connect the outcomes to the to the inputs that have been put in. It's I see it actually coming in as an industry as well. Almost becoming an industry.
May your
If I
words
can.
come true. Yeah. No, this is, I wouldn't say this is wishful thinking. This is more crystal gazing. So, maybe I'll take the same question to my other fellow panelists. I'll start with you again, Bhumika. Your turn to gaze at the crystal. India at 100, volunteering culture.
So, at Publicis Sapient, where we have this purpose statement as we help people thrive in the brave pursuit of next. I think volunteering is going to become this social fabric which will connect people in the high-paced, very, very technologically advanced world that's going to come in next 25 years. This will also become that one area where they will derive their satisfaction and their sense of purpose from. We all know that we are getting disconnected in real life and we are getting connected in virtual life. I think volunteering is going to be that one space which will pan through it all, blurring the boundaries with its intent and its purpose, and connecting people, forming communities. So although we are going to become very, very technologically advanced, I think people will try to find that pockets of 15 minutes where, even though online, but they can contribute. There will be many, many more avenues of contributing because of the different ways in which people are connecting. And I think we should definitely leverage those.
I'm kind of engrossed with the conversations here, and I'm actually picturizing what it would be India at 100, today, just to give an example, today we just do a blinket. If you need even coriander, you're going to blink it and it'll come to you in 30 minutes. At 100, I have a dream like I can have a platform where we have n number of initiatives available for volunteers to choose and then pick up the day they want to choose, the cause they want to choose. And it's simple as saying to this weekend, I want to go watch a movie, the movie I like, and I just click on that and book it and then participate, give back to the society. I think that is what I would really dream of, Ram.
Love that. Different
Yeah,
days, different causes, you know.
yeah. And choose
Mouli.
what cause really touches you, and it could be just as simple as environment, go plant a tree at any of the lakes near your home, or just go teach your child somewhere, or even, work with uh, NGOs like eVidyaloka, pick up a content material where you want to give your expertise on any of the subjects you are good at. Give that 2 hours or 4 hours and just give back to the society.
Exciting. Mouli?
So it could be anywhere, right? You don't need to be physically present also with
Yeah,
this
I mean, I was
connectivity.
going to say when you said, you go and, do something for the lake nearby. I said, why the lake nearby? Who knows? 25 years, you could do something for the lake in somewhere else. Yeah. So,
True.
but I'm happy to hear from the man who's been planting Miyawaki trees. Yeah. How would you do remote plantation? If I ask you.
Yeah. Ram, an interesting question. Okay, that's what I was actually toggling in my mind from then. So when I say volunteering at 100, in India at 100, uh, in the current advancement of technology, you talk about AI, machine learning, and it could be RPA, and tomorrow it could be what more? I mean, lot more. So I strongly have a feel we can use them as a tools, and we can use them as an help or a supplement. But the core has to be the people connect to the ground is very important. We can, as I mean, we have seen today e-commerce, just a click on it, it comes on your way. What are you ordering for? You're ordering for some objects, you're ordering for some non-living things that you get to use them. It's a things for end of the day. But when you talk about volunteering here, it's the human
Hmm.
aspects of it. It's the lives, not talking just human alone. It could be animals, birds, plants, every living being on this ecosystem, for which we need to have that personal connect. Until unless we have that personal connect, we can never take things forward. But primarily what I want to emphasize here, when I first changed my role from learning and development to taking a course full-time CSR, my mentor told me this. I asked my question to my mentor, what is the objective of the CSR, or what is the outcome or a dream of a CSR? So he said, not having a CSR is a dream that I have, which means I shouldn't find a reason to have a CSR.
Lovely.
So I said that is ultimate. Yes, definitely that's an ultimate thing. But however, considering with all the efforts that been put up by the organizations around, individuals around, the millions of brains get into here. But irrespective of all the initiatives and the activities that we bring in, put in all the strategy, but I mean, I strongly urge that we need to have that human touch, bring in that empathy towards the entire ecosystem that we live in. And I'm sure we will thrive and just make this earth a wonderful place to live for everyone. That's what I want to share with you, Ram.
Amazing. No, I guess I was bestowed the responsibility of summarizing this panel, but I think you've stolen uh, words from my speech. Yeah, listen, I mean, when you actually talked about people connect, I guess, if I was to take away from this whole discussion, uh, besides, the various experiences that all of you shared, and if I was to just look at how, it's really about creating opportunities, the people and their willingness is always there, and that's deep rooted. It's about channelizing it, curating it, and channelizing it, and providing the opportunities. Opportunities not necessarily, which are what would be traditional, but as you rightly explained, COVID resulted in us innovating in various ways in which people could find cause to connect and actually be able to make some meaningful contribution. And we talked about how that could not necessarily be linked with one, but as Geetha rightly pointed out, different days and different causes, and you could actually be doing more than one. Why not, right? And as Bhumika pointed out about the social fabric connectors, and you obviously alluded to the same, Mouli, about people and empathy and connect. But I really, really love the way both you and Devdutta pointed out, making, dreaming about the day when CSR is not required or is not called as CSR. And this is what I guess, Devdutta, you alluded to, saying today we have quote unquote voluntary volunteering. And if I can coin the word, India at 100 will have involuntary volunteering. So people do it as a reflex, not necessarily as a cause, right? So we coined a phrase, thanks to all of your contribution. We are running out of time, but I really have to say that I learned so much from all of you, and I'm sure all of us enjoyed this discussion. On behalf of the 75 lakh children and the 5,000 plus volunteers of eVidyaloka and members of the EV team, may I actually take again this opportunity to thank you all for sparing your time. Wishing you and every teacher in all of us a very happy Teachers' Day.